your life. And so the conclusion, God is playing the long game here in our lives. You know, I've never been a good long game player. I get bored with that stuff, you know. But he's thinking ahead and playing a long game, and you know, like in chess, it's where you give up men to gain greater ground, and all of these kinds of things, and you think several moves ahead. God can do that better than anyone. God is playing this long game in the church, and we don't bring greatness to him. It's the other way around, and that's exactly how it is with all pastors. You know, that even the next pastor of Toledo Foursquare, he's not bringing greatness to us. God's great enough that he's going to move through him in a great way. And we accept that as a reality about God. And so I thought about that, you know, when we started this church 33 years ago. I wasn't who I am today. You know, and people were like, well, you have a bunch of degrees, and I didn't have those degrees. I had one, you know, when I started the church. And, oh, you have all this experience. I didn't then. Right? I was 33 years old. And you think, you know, you think, oh, we need another older, mature pastor. Wow, really? So you only want him for a year till he dies, and then what are you going to do? I was 33 years old. And by some people's estimations, if I had been applying to be the pastor of this church, there probably would have been congregants back then that wouldn't think I was qualified. But I was the pastor of this church because some people believed in what God was doing in my life. And so, you know, we can't start. I heard someone the other day, a pastor that I admire and appreciate, and he was saying, he's younger, and he was saying how there's a guy in his church that made the statement, you know, I've forgotten more about the scriptures than you've learned or something. And I thought, you know, I can say this, but what a stupid thing to say to a pastor. What a ornery, mean-spirited, arrogant, prideful religious statement. You know, I've been serving God for 30 years and I know more than you. If you did, you wouldn't say that. You just made God mad when you said that. And you know, don't be some old religious curmudgeon that judges the pastor because he's younger than you and thinks that because you've lived long enough, you have the right to be snooty with someone that God's placed in your life as a leader. Don't do that. It's not right. And I personally wouldn't be supportive of it. So I'm just saying, you know, that you may think that the next pastor needs all these skill sets, but does he, or does he just need God on his side? And you know, over the past 33 years, I believe that this congregation has been very patient and tolerant and lenient and accepting of me and all my quirks. And I've never tried to be someone other than, you know, who I am. And that's a lot to deal with on certain days, and yet this congregation just keeps putting up with it. And I know that we do. And I have to put up with me because I can't escape. But and Debbie has to put up with me because she can't escape because divorce is wrong, and so we're married. But this church has been very patient in all the, you know, and I'm very blunt, and all the blunt things I say, and all of that. And that's what's allowed me to be a good pastor, is having the congregation on my side. And if you want your next pastor to be good, you have to be on his side or her side. You have to be on their side. You say, well, I don't believe in women pastors. What do you think Debbie is? I'm a hood ornament, and she runs the church. Wake up and, you haven't noticed? I'm just making sure I'm finished. So, David, when you think of the Cave of Adullam, wasn't a great leader when he went to the Cave of Adullam. He was just running away from life. But he ended up the leader, a great leader of the nation that they never forgot. And he became a standard by which they measured kings. And a big part of that was his mighty men. His mighty men that would risk their lives to get him a drink of water. I always think about that passage. He says he's thirsty. Two guys go and they risk their very lives to get him a drink of water, and he pours it on the ground. And I read that and I think, what a jerk. But they didn't mind because they were exceptional followers. I would have felt really obligated to drink it and to say how much I appreciated their efforts and everything. He's just like, no, I can't do that. You risk your lives for it. And pours it out to the Lord. It was the right thing, and they respected it. We have to be all in. And I love that the Cave of Adullam, that was 43 minutes. I love the Cave of Adullam because it means justice of the people. And I think about justice. You can't separate justice from righteousness, and the justice of the people, that the people might have justice because God cares. And you can listen to the lies of the devil. I don't recommend it, but you can. Or you can trust that God has not stopped caring about this church. Right? It wasn't my idea to start this church. It was God's. He wanted a Foursquare church in Toledo, Oregon. That was God's choice. He hasn't changed his mind about that. So you have to rise up as faithful people that care about your church. This church that you attend together, the relationships and friendships you have with each other matter. Those connections that you have. You have to be faithful to those connections. You can't just say, well, Charles doesn't preach anymore. Let's go see if there's someone funnier than him. That's pretty lame to act like that. Well, we'll just, we'll go find someone else that tickles our fancy. You're already engaged with people in this body. Ride this out together. So I'll pray and dismiss us, right? Lord, I just pray that we as a people will be inspired to trust you for great things. That some might think, it's an ending of an era, but is it really, or is it just the beginning of a greater era? Lord, that I believe with all my heart that you have plans for this church that requires a leader with a different gifting and skill set than you've given me. And I just believe, Lord, that you want to do that. And I just pray, Lord, that all of us would hold on to that vision in Jesus' holy name. And bless our time together for the retirement party, that we'll have great fun and good times and all of that in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen. Could you just Hold on for 1 minute. I just want to do this before we go. If you are a person who came to this church years ago and you came here today because of the retirement party, will you stand up so we can acknowledge who you are? Okay. All right. So we got some people, so in case you don't know them, I want to make sure. We have people in the back there. Who's behind Ken and Cynthia? Is somebody standing there?
No.
No. Okay. So we have Ken and Cynthia Leininger. Do you guys remember them? All right. So wave at everybody so they'll know who you are. We know Tom and Sherry Stemmerman, right? And Rich and Cheryl Richmond. They now live in Arizona because they went ahead of us. And Rich and Cheryl, did you wave at everybody? Bert. You guys know Bert. And
Holy Week speaker this year?
Yes, and then Carol she used to be Carol McCracken, but now she's Carol Berry, and her husband is Richard, who's right there. Okay, and who else? Who else is, anybody else that's old? Well, not old to the church, I mean. Previous people? Okay, then all the rest of you are here now. So I just wanted you to know who they were, and so you can, if you remember them, great, and if you don't, make a new friend.
Amen.
All right. So do you want to pray over the food?
I thought I just did that.
Did you? Okay, I guess I was thinking
You're
about
not an
my thing.
active listener.
I guess not. I guess not. So sorry. All right, go. Let's go party.